It's 4:02. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? If not, no.
This is the first meeting of the corporate team that I have attended.
This year is just, this is the first meeting we've had on strategic plan.
Should I declare my pecuniary interest at this time?
So, Mr. Parker, basically it's a special council meeting. We invited the corporate team to come just to kind of to hear the kickoff. So you're good because you're just here as a observer.
Since that's not working, I'll just, I'll go through my paper and I'll maybe stand so I can address both sides here.
Sure.
So my name is Mike Addison. I'm the general manager of Landback. We are the La Cloche Manitoulin Business Assistance Corporation. And we are funded by FedNor. And our mandate is to provide economic development, small business support, and small business loans to businesses, organizations, and municipalities within the La Cloche foothills and Manitoulin Island area, including Clarendon. So we do work with municipalities, we do strategic planning, we work with not-for-profit organizations, we assist them with applying for funding. We, in some cases, can actually apply for funding on their behalf. We provide counseling services to small business. We do small business loans, and quite honestly, in the last little while, we've done an incredible amount of business in this community. And we're very proud of some of the things that happened. And in one of the sessions, I made the comment that we're doing a lot in this community, but we can't talk about it. Well, there are some things I can talk about because we do have permission. And for example, Union Car Wash is something that we were able to assist with, along with a number of other businesses that are starting up and growing within the community. Sorry, guys. I will mention that at some point, Eric Teismeyer from FedNor will be joining us. Eric has asked if he can sit in. He'd like to just see how the session is going. They are our primary funder. We work very closely with them. And at the same time, it gives him an opportunity. He did attend, along with representatives from Energy Mines and Northern Development. They attended some of the sessions that we had with your community groups to find out what's going on in your community, to find out where they, how they might be able to assist within your community. So Eric Teismeyer is our program officer with FedNor. He services the same area that I do, so La Cloche Foothills and Manitoulin and Clarendon. And Eric actually works out of our office in Gore Bay. He also makes use of our office here in Espanola as he needs to from time to time. So when we started the strategic planning process, we initially met with council. We had a really good session over at the library. We talked about what strategic planning is, what we wanted to accomplish, what our process was going to be, and we got input from council into the questions that we were going to ask all the groups. And we asked all the groups the same questions, and I'll run through them very quickly. And it's not about getting really in-depth into a lot of things. It was about an overview. How do you think things are going? How do we make things better? What are some ideas that might help enhance our community? So we talked about situational analysis. We talked about where are we today? What are we happy about in our community? And just about first of all, I should say, the first meeting was with council. The next two meetings were with staff, and I believe we had all staff there, or maybe possible exception of one. So we did have a chance to meet with all staff. We then met with the business community. We met with the clubs and organizations in Espanola, and then we met with the general public. All of the sessions were very well attended, with the exception of general public, and it was a smaller group. But we got pretty much the same kind of feedback. And I can say what we heard was, when we asked the question, what are you happy about? What's going on in your community today that you're really happy about? What do you want to celebrate about what's going on today? And everybody was quiet. And if you remember, including council, and it took a little bit of prodding to say, okay, so what do you have going on for a small community in Northern Ontario? What's happening here? And as soon as we started talking about things like we have a golf course, and you have a ski hill, and you have a pool, you have a hospital in town, you have a nursing home, you have great seniors care. And we started going through all of the things that you should be proud of as a small community. And all of a sudden, everybody opened up. And I can show you from some of the sessions, the recorders filled 4 and 5 pages of all the good news stories of things that are happening in this community. Sometimes we take it for granted and we don't really realize because maybe we're not a skier, so we don't think about how important it is to have a ski hill in town. Or we don't curl, so we're not worried about the curling club. But these are all things that make the community more vibrant. They're things that will attract people to the community. One of the things, in talking to a young professional couple that has moved to this community in recent years, what did they look for? And they looked for, number one, you have a pool, you have a lot of activities for young people, you have summer programs for softball, you have soccer, you have some great parks. So many things going on, and you have French schools. So anybody that wants to take advantage of getting their kids an education in French, they can do that here. Just so many really, really positive things. So tonight, I'd like you to work with me, ask questions as we go. Feel free to jump in. This is your strategic plan. I'm only here to facilitate. I'm not going to tell you what you need. I'm not going to tell you what direction you should go, but I'm going to look for your input. And then from that, we are going to help you develop a plan, but it's going to be your plan. Through all of the sessions, we encourage people to listen actively, respect others. We're not trying to reach consensus. We're trying to get input from everyone. We ask people to speak from their own perspective. And most of all, we ask people to keep it positive. We don't want to talk about what's wrong. We want to talk about what's good. We want to talk about how we make it better. And we also ask people to respect others' confidentiality. So if somebody came to a session and brought up an idea, it didn't matter how crazy it was, don't go out and talk about it in the community about what they said. So let's keep it within our groups and let's keep it a positive process. So without putting anybody on the spot, I'm just kind of curious. I was at a session this week, and one of the questions that they said they asked to councils when they met with them was, in 2 sentences or less, what's your definition of economic development? Anyone want to take a stab at it?
Anything that leads to improvement in the gross domestic product of the community.
Okay. Anybody else? So every one of us probably has a different definition of economic development. The one that I choose to use is that it's a sustained community effort to improve both the local economy and the quality of life by building the area's capacity to adapt to economic change. In other words, if something happens in your community, we develop a plan, and the next thing you know, we have an announcement from the mill that is devastating to this community. How do you react to it? How do we overcome that? I made the mistake in one of my sessions of referring to Espanola as a one-horse town. I will never do that again. I was very quickly corrected. You're not a one-horse town. You have a lot of other things going on. But at the same time, if something happens to the mill, how long are those other things going to be here? How long are you going to have the jobs? What happens when families start moving away? How long will the other box stores stay here without the population and without the good incomes from the mill? So I won't use the term one-horse town, but at the same time, you are very reliant on one industry. So We talked about, to all the groups, about what they thought would enhance economic activity within the town. And we wanted to ultimately end up with making Espanola become a leading example of a thriving community in which to live, work, and play. Because the people that we want to attract here, they want to come here for the recreation you offer. They want to come here for jobs. They want to come here for a good way of life. It's a safe place to raise your children. You have good schools. So if you look at your demographics going back over a number of years, you'll find that your population hasn't changed very much. What has changed is the demographics. So you've gone from a community where you had a lot more young families, a lot more young people. Now you've got more older families. So houses that used to have a family of 4, maybe a family of 2 now, or a family of 1. So we're losing our young people, and this is across Northern Ontario. This isn't just here. Our school populations are going down, and you don't want, I mean, as much as you want to provide a lot of services to support the seniors that want to live in your community, you need to be able to attract the young families or keep the young families here, keep them from moving away. And that happens through the opportunities for recreation and through good paying jobs for younger people. So we asked people, what could the municipal government do to improve the local economy and the quality of life in the town of Espanola? And I can tell you that for the most part, all the groups said the same thing. You do a pretty good job. There were ideas that came out, things that could be done differently, things that could be enhanced. But we heard a lot of good things. We heard that people thought that you had great staff. In particular, we had a lot of very positive comments about Public Works, how courteous they are, how they try to work with people if they have to tie up their roads, and that they're very accommodating. We've heard that there's a lot going on in the town. People don't always know what's going on, but when we talk about it, and they go, wow, I didn't realize that much was happening in our small community. But you do have a lot. You have a lot of things that draw people to your community. And whether it's the ball tournaments in the summer, the car shows, the ski hill, the pool, you've got a hockey team in town, you're bringing people into your community, and when those people come here, they're spending money. I can tell you, my family for a number of years came here every week. The kids came to the pool to take swimming lessons. And it was never just to the pool and back. It was always to the pool. There was always a meal involved. There was always shopping involved. And it turned out to be a whole day. So the kids got a 1 hour of swimming lessons. And it supported the local economy. In one of the sessions we did, somebody told me that the catchment area for Espanola was a hub for about 13,000 people. And I asked where they got that number, and they said that's the catchment area for our hospital. Well, in fact, I'd say it's double that, because your catchment area includes all of Manitoulin Island as well. Because if you live on Manitoulin Island, you can't go anywhere without coming through Espanola. And a lot of the things that are attractive to people from out of town are right on your main drag. Whether it's the box stores, the fast food restaurants, or the coffee shops, they're right on the main drag, and they're causing people to stop and help your overall economy. In the end, we ended up with pages and pages and pages of positives. And one of the things that rang true for most of the groups was proximity. Your proximity, you are the land road to one of the best cruising areas in the world, the North Channel. You are the gateway to Manitoulin Island, where a lot of people go for summer vacations, or last week for hunting season. There's a lot of people who travel through your town, and you need to take advantage of that. How do you get them to pull off the road? How do you get them to do their shopping here? How do you get them to support your local economy? So in reality, Espanola is the hub for my region, or Eric's region, which is the La Cloche Foothills, Manitoulin Island area. and that population is about 27,000. So we talked to people in terms of relationship strengths, and we asked them about communication. How do they feel the communication is? And this is communication between the public and council, between council and the public, with staff. And for the most part, it was all really good. Everybody had good comments. They thought things were well done. Some people said, well, you know, they could do a better job at advertising things or letting me know when this is going on or whatever. But sometimes those people just don't pay attention to social media, or they're not looking at your website, or they're not listening to the radio. But for the most part, you have a very engaged community. They want to take part. When I met with your clubs and organizations, it was actually a really fun session, because not only did they contribute to the input we were looking for, they had a great time talking to each other. And we saw different clubs talking about how they could work together. And it was really nice to see. And they asked if they could have that opportunity on an ongoing basis. In other words, we need to do this more often so we can talk about how we can share and do things. So whether it's service clubs, victim services, search and rescue, Alliance Club, whatever, it's an opportunity for them to find out how they can work together, to identify needs. We talked about the fact that if you've got groups raising funds in your community, maybe there's an opportunity to work with the community, the municipality. Is there a way for them to take their dollars and have you apply for funding and use that as your leveraged funds? So maybe if they can give you $10,000, you can turn it into $100,000, or if they can give you $50,000, you can turn it into $500,000 for a community project. And we're more than happy to assist in making that happen if we can. We talked to the groups about opportunities. We asked them, what could the municipality, the town of Espanola, what could you do better? Or what could they do better? What could they do to help your community? The one thing that really rang out is you have today a very strong group of community volunteers. And they're happy to do what they're doing. They see possibilities to do more. But they told me the same thing that everybody tells me when I do this session. Volunteers, the age of volunteers is getting older. Volunteers are my generation, and we typically volunteer in more than one organization. Younger people either aren't volunteering, or if they do volunteer, it's in one organization. So we're losing volunteers. A lot of organizations are struggling to keep things alive. I have heard recently there's a chance that you may not have a Fiber Arts Festival next year, which would be really too bad, because it's grown, it's become a big event in your community, and you know, maybe due to lack of volunteers, it may not continue. Are there other things that we can do? Are there ways to get our groups working together? Can we create a community event where several groups work together? I've seen too many times where maybe a Lions Club will run something, or another group will run something. But if they ever put the resources together, they can do a bigger event and a lot less work if they have more volunteers to do it that way. So we want to focus on what we can do better or differently to help the town of Espanola be more engaged, be more healthy, and be more prosperous. And we want to achieve the desired future, which is going to be the outcome of this process when we get our strategic plan done. And once we do that, we want to measure what we've accomplished. So we ask people, how are we going to know that what we've done made a difference in this town? And one of the examples I gave is I hosted an event here a couple of years ago where I brought people in from all over Northern Ontario. I think I had 80 people in this town. How did you know that was a good thing for the town? Did Tim Hortons sell more coffee? I know the motels in the area benefited because they had some room sales. But 80 people pretty significant event. But how are we going to measure it? If we do a plan and we try to bring more people to town to spend more dollars, how are we going to know it's successful? What are the indicators going to be? And again, our groups give us a lot of ideas, you know, everything from more housing starts to, you know, more money at the checkout for a lot of our local businesses, and basically just seeing more people in our streets. So we asked people, what should be the key measurable items? And we've got a list of them. And what we'll be doing is, as we decide on what your priorities are, we'll try to assign some measurables. So that if we say we want to increase, for example, affordable housing, how are we going to know we're successful? Is it going to be new housing starts or fewer people looking or whatever? Every time we say we want to achieve something, we want to know how we're going to measure it. So we know how successful we've been through the process. So as part of this process, I wanted to give you an update on what we found out from the groups that we talked to. I've been provided with a copy of your last strategic plan with some of the highlights of what's been accomplished or what maybe hasn't been accomplished. And I'd also like you to reconsider your vision and mission statement. Do they still make sense? Or is this the time when we're doing a new strategic plan to revisit our vision and mission? And maybe there's something that fits better in today's climate. One of the things that came out is, because I was fortunate enough to be at the announcement at Domtar earlier this year, that was a great news story. It's a huge investment in this community, and most of the people that attended the session didn't know about it. They didn't know about the investment, or they knew, oh yeah, they got 20 million bucks. The big story here is that it was $28 million, which was the first part of a much larger investment, which, if everything happens, will be a total of about $98 million in this community. And 50% of that is an investment from Domtar. So they're investing $50 million in your community. And unfortunately, that message really didn't get out. And I think that's a huge good news story for young families, for people in this community. The mill's going to be around for a while, and it should be healthy. And I think that at the announcement, they said 20 years. We're looking at a good 20 years with these recent announcements. And I understand that there probably more to come down the road. I'm not going to ask to change the mission and vision tonight. I'm going to ask you to take a look at it and see what you think, and let me know, either directly or through staff. Let me know if you think there needs to be a change. We will revisit that before we do the final draft of the strategic plan. The other thing that I will mention is your Oracle poll is a great document. It's collected a lot of really good information, and we'll be using sections of that as we go forward in the strategic plan. So it was a great idea. The one thing I did find is I held this up at every session, and I don't think anybody in any of the sessions participated in this poll. And I know the survey number was 500. Maybe just a coincidence that none of the 500 were in my sessions. I think in total we had about 80 people came out to the sessions, but none of them remembered doing the survey. So the people that want to be engaged, the people that came out to the sessions, weren't polled for their opinion. So quickly, and I'm going to ask Eric to jump in at any point if you have anything to add as we're going forward.
Just one thing here. It looks like maybe your file did come up there on the right-hand side. I see Calvin Westmoreland. So if you have anything you'd like to refer to there.
Actually, I just went through that. Yeah, no, I was going to say we're now at another section, so this one's going to come up.
Okay, I just thought I'd bring it up there, okay,
Yeah.
I know you'd gone through a lot of that, but there may be some other stuff that.
So we've essentially covered what I wanted to cover from that particular deck. This is your strategic plan update. And again, your vision is a safe, healthy community in which to live, work, and thrive. Does that still fit, or does that need to change? And again, I'm not looking for an answer tonight. I'm suggesting that you take a look at it. If it still fits, we'll put it in there. That's on the page 2 of your strategic plan. Your mission statement: the Corporation of the Town of Espanola is committed to serving the needs of our community by supporting the positive, well-balanced economic and physical growth of the town. And we will continue to pursue excellence by providing accountable and affordable services while promoting the highest quality of life. If you feel that still fits, then that's great, and we can leave it there. But I always like to give you an opportunity to revisit it in case there's something that you do want to change. So these were the infrastructure changes. And again, staff can probably know more about this than what I do, but new software was launched and it was successful. And
yeah, so it was actually in 2014 that we bought our first transition to a new accounting software package. So we're transitioning from DOS-based to Windows. So it hasn't been that long, really, when you think about it. And yeah, so it's really helped us improve our budgeting process, and we're trying to identify, the actual costs of providing certain services better and stuff. So that was what started it.
okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure as with any software, there's a lot of bugs and things to get set up.
It's continual, because that company that we actually purchased the product from was pretty popular with municipalities at the time, and it still is. But that company has been sold about four times. So trying to maintain support every time you have a problem, and that person's no longer here. Anyway, so it has been a long transition.
Okay. Accessibility retrofit for municipal office, which of course was required. New rescue units, is that for fire?
Yeah.
Okay. Highway 6, Turkey Creek Culvert, trail improvements. These were all things that were part of your previous plan that were accomplished. So as you can see, there's quite a number of things that have been accomplished. Waugh Street lift upgrades, Bass Lake Road culvert replacement, sewage treatment plant, infrastructure renewal, relining of the water tower, infrastructure renewal phase 2, the Highway 6 connecting link, new fire pumper tanker, moved into the new fire hall, and I got to say I'm impressed as a fire chief. I wish I had that fire hall in my community. It's very nice. The 2020 completion of the connecting link on Highway 6 and 2nd Avenue to McDonald's is being applied for in 2021. Feel free to.
I think council's all aware. I was just trying to list everything out that we've done, and so that was just the new grant opportunities that we had talked about. So we applied for 2 under the recreation program. That was for the overall parks and playground strategy, and the other one was the arena chiller and the roof for that one. And then we applied again for another phase of Connecting Link Highway, and then in January we'll be applying again for the trunk main that comes into town from the water treatment plant. So, and just one of the overall goals of that of maintaining our infrastructure. And the last plan was to mitigate the risk of failure. So I think we've been doing a good job of that. One of our other goals was just to try and work on affordable housing and that. And so we are working with not-for-profit housing and the DSAB on a potential project. So it's just listed as underway.
Good. Sustainable economic growth and prosperity, increase the assessment base and attract employment opportunities. And this is something that we really heard loud and clear, is we need good jobs in the community. We need to attract more business or more industry so that you do have a little more diversification, and we need to attract the young families. So we need to get the school populations up. We need to have younger people that can actually work in our community and volunteer in our service groups and all the things that make communities more vibrant. Ensure the residential tax rate is affordable. I've just done a little research myself. Your tax rate isn't bad. You're compared to other communities in the area of roughly equivalent size, you're actually doing really well. So for all you have to offer, I don't think, I can get shot for saying this, but I don't think you're overtaxing for what you have to offer in this community. Pursue partnerships with other municipalities and level of government. This is key. And I think, and Eric can speak to this as well. We're currently looking at a La Cloche Foothills economic development initiative, where we're going to try and partner with neighboring municipalities, hopefully some First Nations, as well as an unorganized township. And there's money available to provide regional economic development. And
yeah, I can speak to that. I mean, part of Fednor's role not only is to, as federal employees, with a $50 million a year fund for Northern Ontario for economic development, we not only assist communities and businesses in applying to our fund. I also help connect stakeholders in the region with programs outside of or services outside of national, other federal kind of services and programs. Like, we played a pretty important role facilitating discussion between Domtar and the Strategic Innovation Fund that they were able to get the $28 million out of, or keeping an eye on the new federal Northern Immigration pilot that's coming out, and Espanola is a partner in the Sudbury area for that. That's one potential solution to help mitigate the labor shortages in Northern Ontario. Just one of many solutions, but those are just examples. There's a lot of FedNor, and I mean, it's just a role. We have a role of encouraging investments in economic development, encouraging regional thinking, helping build partnerships. And so that one program, I mean, we fund a lot of community planning, community economic infrastructure, like the industrial parking here. I was involved in funding for that. But that program Mike talked about is the community investment initiative. We've funded across the north, encouraging groups of communities to work together, and you can get funding of 90% for up to 3 years and $100,000 per year for a regional economic development officer. So, having served this area myself for on and off for the last 13 years, I know there's a lot of opportunities, regional opportunities, and lots of you've pursued yourselves over the years. But this could be in addition to your own economic development officer, whoever to quit it. But you could bring in South Spanish and south of here down to Whitefish River First Nation. They're very interested in all working together. So it's a really good deal in terms of funding, and also a good opportunity to market the whole region to attract residents and businesses. There's a lot of suppliers to the forestry and mining sectors that I could see being interested in the affordable factors and land. You've got an industrial park just around this area. We've talked to some of them directly, so we know they're out there. So it's just a little more about what we do and the program Mike's referring to.
So one of the things that we do as Landback, when we have an opportunity to work with a client or a business, quite often we'll bring Eric. So we've got FedNor at the table. We'll bring Energy Northern Development Mines to the table. So that the client talks once, and we all hear the message. There's a lot of stories I can't share, but I guess one I could share is we had a meeting at the Ski Hill where we brought all the funding partners together, and together we were able to come up with some things that were going to work for them and help out with the issues they have with their T-bar things, so they can get ready for winter, which you're getting a little sooner than we are on the island. So I'm not sure they're skiing out there yet, but I was a little shocked when I drove into town and saw the snow.
Excuse me.
Yep.
So this was done by more than just one community, or was this done with in conjunction with the other community, or?
The ski hill?
Yeah,
No, that was a matter of FedNor, Energy Development Mines, Lambac, Trillion was there. So we brought a bunch of the funders together and said, how can we help them? And that's one of the things that we like to do. I started doing it a few years ago. But if I'm going to talk to somebody about an opportunity, I'll invite Eric and I'll invite the other organizations so we can see how we can help them. And we do this with private business, and we do this with organizations, and we can do this with municipalities.
do you have an example? I mean, I was listening to Eric, and I understand what he's saying. It's just I don't know how that would work with other communities.
In terms of the other communities?
Yes.
So if you were to hire, I'll give you an example. We recently, Lambac applied on behalf of 4 municipalities, 2 unorganized townships, and 2 First Nations for a regional economic development officer. So we hired the individual on behalf of the municipalities. It worked out better in this case that they actually worked out of our office. There's always a certain element of, well, if you're working out of their office, you're going to end up doing their taxes for them. And so this way it's totally independent. There's a board made up of a representative from each of the communities and First Nations, and they decide on the priorities. But in terms of the deliverables, in terms of the day-to-day work, that falls under me, because I have to show FedNor that I'm meeting the criteria of that funding arrangement. So if we were to go ahead and do the same thing over here, it would be a regional position. We would make sure that they're somewhat equitable in the fact that they're not just going to do all their work in one community, and make sure that they meet all of the requirements. So FedNor's going to ask us for a work plan.
Well, that was my point. I was wondering how you police that, and I guess.
That would be up to us.
Yes,
If we're the applicant. You could also do this where there was a lead municipality.
Mhm.
So Espanola could apply on behalf of other municipalities. My experience is that there's always somebody out there that's going to say, well, you're going to get the full, more benefit than we do.
That was my point, yeah.
So we're the neutral third party. We're going to try and police that. And in a sense, we've got a steering committee made up of representatives of all the communities, and they're going to decide on priorities. And as long as they meet the deliverables that we have to show FedNor, because they're going to mark us on it, not you. So we have to be able to make sure that whatever is being done fits their criteria for the funding.
Thank you.
So it's, yeah, we'll play that role where we have the resources to do so.
Okay.
We're a small group, but we'll do it where we can.
Mighty.
Yeah, Ray, we, as a council, we passed a resolution to make an application towards this. We have to get our strategic plan tied up
Yes.
before we can actually make the application as a joint for the other communities.
Right.
Yes.
And it was like 90% of $100,000 for 3 years, and 75% for 3 years, and 50% for 3
Yes,
years.
I do recall that, yeah. It was just, I was wondering how it would work in
Yeah.
like real life.
So we are doing it today. This program has been used. There's a very successful one on the Highway 11 corridor. It goes from just west of Hearst all the way down through New Liskeard. All the small communities are a part of it. And they're even going off Highway 11 now, like Timmins is applying to be a part of it. And it's regional. It's about attracting people to the area, attracting business to the area. One of the things that sometimes people have trouble recognizing is that if something good happens in your neighboring community, it's good for you. And I tell people this with the Western Manitoulin project, if there's an expansion at the quarry in Melbourne Bay, Quarry Bay benefits. All the traffic has to go through there. That's where a lot of people are going to live. So regionally, and especially for Espanola, you're the hub. You're the hub for this whole area. So even if something happens near Hyman, it's good for Espanola because the people that work there are going to come here. They're going to support your businesses. I had the mayor of one of the neighboring communities say to me, you know what? It's great that things are going well in Espanola. A lot of people from my community have jobs there. So they recognize what you're providing to the outlying areas. And maybe by living up there, there's a little bit cheaper tax rate. But ultimately, we all need to work together. And what's good for one is good for the other. And it doesn't mean you have to amalgamate. It just means you have to work together. And there's the economies of scale and there's savings if you work together. We're currently looking at doing a study with some other municipalities about shared services and what things can be shared and how much can be saved by doing that. And I understand you are doing some cost sharing on building, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are some things that you are already doing, and maybe there's more things. But look to your neighbors, look to the regional aspect, and certainly when it comes to funding FedNor and Northern Development Lines, they look favorably upon that. They look favorably upon the regional aspect. If you can involve the First Nations in your area, that's another, if you listen, particularly with the federal government, there's a lot of check boxes there that if you can involve them and come up with a plan that works for everybody, it helps you get the funding.
Yeah, I was just, I was late because I was driving from Shashagoan and on the main, on the west end 2 hour drive. But that always strikes me going to the First Nations, like how advanced they are in development. And young populations that are growing, very different. They also have a lot of youth migration, but they bring a lot to the table in regional discussions, a lot of resources and partnerships. It's definitely valuable. And I mean, you just got to think you realize you're not competing with those immediate neighbors in economic development. You're competing with Sudbury, that you're competing with Southern Ontario. But together as a region, you can have a bit of an economy of scale on marketing and other things and branding so that you can get a lot farther that way than trying to work on your own.
Okay.
One of the things that came up in a lot of the sessions was everybody was excited about the marijuana grow up opportunity in town, and then I understand now that that's either off or on hold at this time. But again, it was a potential opportunity to provide jobs in the community. Not necessarily something that everybody wanted, but it was an opportunity. I see more lots in the industrial park have been sold. In the past 5 years, you've had 4 new site plan agreements. One of the objectives of the last plan was excellence in government. And so you're continuing to investigate housing opportunities with DSAB and Nonprofit Housing Board. You've completed a service delivery review in 2015. And you're continually striving for open and transparent communication. And I think that's great. One of the things that we did for the session, or I shouldn't say we did, you did, staff did, is before the sessions, they sent out a notice. They put it on the radio. It was on the your local TV channel, on social media, to make people aware of what was going on. And it's always hard to get people to come up to these things. Everybody wants to be able to sit at home and complain about what's going on. But the people that came out were all very positive, and they were all very excited about having the opportunity. And I had people come up after the session and thank me for the opportunity to come out and express their opinion. And I said, look, all I can do is take it forward. And if it's great ideas, then council may move on it. But I'm just carrying it forward. I'm just the intermediary, and I will take things forward. There will be a more in-depth document that I will provide to you with a lot of the comments. For a reason, we had asked that staff and council not attend the sessions, so that people could speak freely. And I will tell you, there were no negative comments. It was all very positive. And some people joked around with me and said, oh, I have something to say, but I'm not going to say it because that would be negative. And I know they were joking. It was a really, really good experience, and I did enjoy it. And I think a lot of the people that were there, a lot of them said, you know what, we really appreciate this, and we're glad the town is taking this opportunity. I know of another community not too far from here that did their strategic plan around this table, or at a table like this. And they sat there and the councillors talked to each other about what do we want to do over the next 5 years. And I think the process you're doing is worthwhile. You're getting independent review, you're getting input from a lot of different groups, and then ultimately in the end, you're going to make the decision. You're going to decide what is in your plan. Social media presence through Facebook. I follow a lot of your social media stuff, and it's great to see what's going on. I'm not sure who all is doing it. I know Cheryl does some of it, but it's good to keep abreast of what's happening in the community. I know the Ski Hill does a great job of putting stuff out there and making people aware of what's happening on their site. And I'm sure there's other ones that I'm just not aware of, but I think you do a great job of getting the information out. You're now streaming and posting council meetings, which I think is great, being transparent. I've watched a few myself, and it's kind of interesting. It helps me get a little better perspective on what's happening in your community. You're undergoing website redevelopment, and I did a survey here this week about your website, and I did take a thorough look at it and was honest with my comments. So hopefully that'll help in the development of the site. Excellence in Government adopted a council code of conduct, official plan review, and the new plan was adopted in 2017. A budget which clearly identifies services and with a focus on enhanced reviewing and updating council policies. So you've accomplished a lot of things that you set out to do in your last plan, and that's great. A lot of times, and I've actually had conversations with communities that do a strategic plan because FedNor wants to see a strategic plan. And when you do an application to FedNor or NOHFC, one of the questions is this consistent with your strategic plan? So you have to have one on the shelf. And I know a lot of communities do a plan and they put it on the shelf and they never look at it again. And I encourage you, and obviously that's not what you're doing, and I encourage you to review your plan, and I would suggest annually. And if you wanted, once you have your plan in place, if you want to do an annual review, I would be happy to facilitate that. Bring everybody out and say, here's what we've accomplished over the last year, and has anything changed so that we need to change our plan or adjust our plan? Because your strategic plan is not a fixed document for 5 years. It's a living document. Something could happen next year that totally changes your plan. In a community like this, changes at the mill can significantly affect what's happening in your community, and you may have to adjust your plan to accommodate that. Or if for some reason they decided to divert the highway around the town, you'd want to adjust your strategic plan. Not saying that would ever happen, but things can happen that will change the way you want to do business in your community. You've got a drinking water plan, asset management plan, community energy demand management plan, community satisfaction survey through the Oracle poll, which I say it's an excellent document, and I enjoyed reading it. But a lot of the people that I talked to in the sessions didn't participate in it, and they weren't aware that that information was out there. So I encourage them to go to your website. I'm pretty sure it's on your website, so that they can actually see that. And I told them that if they wanted to participate the next time, that they could ask for a survey or go in, and I think you can do it online. Okay. Safe and healthy community. Promote a safe and healthy, secure environment while encouraging healthy lifestyles. You've got a ton of stuff going on in terms of recreation. you've got a lot of opportunities for all age groups. And I think that's great. And one of the sessions, I had a delegation come out from pickleball. And I didn't know very much about pickleball, but I understand it's a growing thing and a lot of people are doing it. And it's appealing to seniors because you can do this well after you have to stop playing tennis. And that's huge in your community. If you can keep your seniors active, and you have walking programs where they walk in the arena at certain times of the year, keep your seniors active. It keeps them in their homes longer. It keeps them a part of society longer if they can stay active. Adopted a commuter cycling plan. Again, that's keeping people active. And when we talk about funding, we recently had a presentation from Trillium, and they're all about active people. They're all about how to get our youth active, how to get our seniors active. And there's funding out there to do that. It's just a matter of finding the right program and doing the applications. One of the things that I hope to do sometime in the new year is somewhere in this community have a session where I invite FedNor, Energy Northern Development Mines, and Trillium to come out and do a presentation. And so that's for your community, that's for your service clubs, to come out and find out what's required to apply for funding. How can they access funds? What are the funds good for? And maybe they can draw more money into your community. I'm committing Eric on that, but I'm pretty sure he's in agreement. Yeah. And we have done this before, and it's great to have all the funders at the table. Espanola has been included as a designation on the Great Lakes Waterfront Trail. There's a lot of traffic crosses onto Manitoulin Island by ferry, and the studies that we're doing over there show that a lot of them don't stop. They cross on the ferry, and their first stop is Espanola. So it's a shorter way or less driving to get into Northern Ontario. And again, this is just the right distance. So if you're driving from South Bay Mouth, you're ready for a coffee and a stop by the time you get to Espanola. And as much as we look at that and we say, well, the ferry traffic is up this year, that's great for our economy. Chances are Espanola is the one that's benefiting from a lot of that business. Solid community partners and work to maintain and improve things like things that are going on with the Queensway Pentecostal Church, Boogie Mountain Ski Club, hopefully Domtar. And I have to say, I'm not a skier. I knew that there was a ski hill in town. It wasn't until I got involved and started following them, seeing what's going on, and realizing how much they're actually doing. How they're attracting ski teams from Laurentian University to come here and train. They've got people coming from Northern Michigan because of the airbags and the things that they have here for training. They're now, the schools on Manitoulin used to send their kids on bus trips to the Soo to go skiing. They're now talking about coming to Espanola for those same trips. So when they do that, it's always a couple of nights in a motel room and again, more business in your community in the winter season when things are generally slower. Volunteer appreciation, and I really respect this. You have some great volunteers in your town. They do some great work, but they need to be appreciated. Volunteers don't work for the money. They do it because they want to do it, but they'll continue to do it if every once in a while you give them a pat on the back. And it doesn't have to be much. It can be as simple as thank you for what you're doing, or maybe celebrating a service group every once in a while. Maybe it's an appearance on your website or something where they feel proud about it. For years, I've been a volunteer. I've been a member of the Lions Club. I'm a volunteer firefighter. I'm involved with North Shore Search and Rescue here at Espanola. I do it because I want to do it. But every time somebody gives me a pat on the back and says, thank you for what you do, I just want to volunteer more. It makes me feel good about what I do. It makes me want to do more in my community. So you can't thank your volunteers enough. And that's something to keep in mind. They'll continue doing things for you, but every once in a while, you gotta say thanks. Thanks for doing that. And you know what? Sometimes when you have a volunteer appreciation night, there's a lot of volunteers that don't go to those. They sit back, they go, that's not for me. That's for the real volunteers. If you can find a way to get the word out that you really appreciate all the work they do in your community, that goes a long way. And it will also attract more volunteers. One of the things we talked to the clubs and organizations group was having a night where we brought all the clubs and organizations, church groups and school groups into one place and held like a mini fair and invited the community to come out and find out what those groups do. And so if you're, I'm in search and rescue, so if I was standing at a table and somebody come up and says, what does search and rescue do? What would I have to do as a volunteer? How can I help my community? I can talk to them and maybe they'll join my organization. Or maybe it's a school group, or it could be a church group. But if you do that, it's a way to get more volunteers, because what I'm hearing is your volunteer groups are shrinking. They're getting older and they're having to slow down what they're doing. And they will make your community more vibrant. The one thing that I was surprised about, and I heard in one of the sessions, as much as there is a chronic shortage of PSWs across all of Ontario, particularly Northern Ontario, your hospital and your nursing home are at full complement. There is no shortage. Now there's some shortages in the community, from what I understand, but they're doing something right if they're keeping a full staff of PSWs in your hospital and nursing home. I'm actually sitting on a panel right now with workforce planning and Cambria College to see if we can find a way to attract more people into those types of occupations like PSW. And you've established a wall of fame, and I have seen it, and it's great. And again, it's a way to recognize people for what they've contributed to your community. And as much as people tend to blush and whatnot, it is a good thing. It's recognizing people for what they do, and other people will look at it and say, I can do that too. I can step up and do it. And again, you know, you're looking right now at losing the Fiber Arts Festival. Maybe we just need somebody to step up and say, I can do that. I can make that happen, because it is a great event and it draws a lot of people into your community. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
Do you have somebody in mind for the Fiber Art Festival? Because we need the name dropped.
No, I don't. But you know what? Maybe it's a matter of going look. I think it's worth going looking.
Yeah, it is.
Because I think it's an important event in your community. And it's community events that get people out. You know, when you have the opportunity to get people out to something, and it doesn't matter whether it's the opening of your fire hall or it's you know, a ball tournament in the summertime, it gets the community out, it gets them together, it gets them talking to each other. It creates that community atmosphere. And there's a lot of communities, like you live in a bigger center, you don't know your neighbor. You don't know the people around you. Our small communities, you do know your neighbor, you do know what they're all about. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but at least you know who they are and you know what you're working with. And you can say, hey, you know what? I'm a member of this club. Why don't you come with me? And we'll go to a meeting and see if you like it. And I have a problem where I can't say no. Don't ask about Fiber Arts Festival.
Oh, drats.
My wife keeps slapping me and saying, you got to learn to say no. Because usually when people ask me to do something, I say yes. But there's a lot of people like that. They're not going to volunteer. But if you say, hey, would you come and do this? They won't say no. They'll come out and help you out. And I learned very early in my days in the Lions Club. I was president of the Lions Club when our club was very new. And I said, we need to get this done, and this done. And I need 3 volunteers. And at the end of the night, nobody volunteered. And I ended up doing all 3 jobs. And at the end of the meeting, my secretary came up to me and he poked me in the shoulder and he said, Mike, you did it wrong. You don't ask for volunteers. You say, will you do this? And chances are they will do it. So don't ask for a volunteer, appoint somebody. and then you're more apt to get it done. And they may have a reason not to, but for the most part, they're not gonna say no to you if you ask them directly.
Okay,
So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk to you about. It's kind of an overview of the results that we got. The next stage, and what's the name of your committee is? The corporate team. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna put the stuff together on paper and hopefully get it out ahead of time. Meet with the corporate team. We're gonna talk about all the different themes. We're gonna talk about what we consider to be the priority things. I heard a lot of good things, but we can't do them all. But we need to pick a couple of areas like you did in your last plan. We may want to revisit the old plan and say there's some things there that didn't get accomplished, so we want to carry them over. But this is about identifying some general areas and then putting it into a document and then coming back to council with a draft document. Ultimately, it's your plan. You will make the final decision, but we'll give you what we think should be in there. And if you approve the draft, we'll get it printed and we'll have our strategic plan. My goal is I know we're running into a holiday season, but I'm hoping that we can have something ready to go and in your hands by the end of January with everything. As long as we can have the meetings we need to have, we'll try to accomplish that.
Good. Any questions? Okay, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Areas that maybe we could improve, okay? You can theoretically say you can improve it everywhere, but we do have a lot of good things with the community. Are there any glaring areas that maybe we should be looking at improving in?
Kind of the things that I heard from the people that I talked to, housing, and particularly affordable housing. You do have some housing developments going on, but what's happening is your population is staying fairly stable, but the houses that used to have families of 4 and 5 and 6 are now a family of 2 or 1. So is there a way, maybe more apartments to get seniors into those apartments that frees up other housing? Or is there an opportunity for the town to do something that would encourage development? The developments that are going on now, some of them are geared towards seniors. But if you want to attract young people, you got to give them decent places to live, safe places for their kids. You're already providing a lot of the things that people want to see in a small community. You've got a tremendous amount of resources going for you. I am hearing there were some comments that you could stand some upgrades on some of the playgrounds. Some of the equipment is getting older, and maybe some of that could be improved on. Attracting development, attracting industrial or commercial business into your town. Do you have the appropriate incentives? Are you out there searching for it? Maybe there's opportunities. We talk to businesses all the time that want to set up, and they're sometimes they say, well, no, I'm in Espanola, I want to start my business in Espanola. And sometimes they say, is there a better place for me to do this? Or where should I be looking? And we try to avoid doing that because we represent all the communities in our area. But there may be something that they require, and maybe it's a site with better sewage or better water supply or power supply or whatever. And then we try and direct them to the municipalities. I can't give out that information, but you have that information. So we would try and direct them in your general direction. I think anything that you can do to keep people coming to your community, and I've heard it said, I can't say where I heard it, but the comment was essentially a lot of the users of the complex and the pool are from out of town. I see that as a good thing because it's bringing people into your community. And those people, when they come to your community, like I say, my wife came over here with my kids, and sometimes I was there. We were at the pool for an hour, Canadian Tire for 2 hours, Giant Tiger for a couple of hours. Kids always wanted to go to McDonald's, or we went for coffee, or stop at the mall. So even though you see it as you're providing resources to outsiders, it's bringing dollars into your town. And they're not paying the municipality directly, but if they're supporting your businesses are going to survive. They're going to continue, or maybe more businesses are going to set up within your community. Like Eric said, working regionally, getting more regional partners. Maybe there's other things that you can partner on so that you can actually save money. When I looked at your taxes, like I say, your taxes aren't out of line. And I'll be honest, my mill rate is exactly the same as yours, and I have a lot less opportunities in my town than what you have here. So you're providing a lot for the tax dollars that are being paid, I think.
Yeah, one of the issues that we have in the community when it comes to development is that you can buy a house in the community for way, way less than it costs to build the same house. So if someone builds let's say a 1,500 square foot house and it costs $300,000 for 1,500 square feet, brand new. And you can buy a 1,500 square foot house for $150,000 or $200,000. The person who builds a new house has to pay thousands of dollars more a year in municipal taxes because the assessment on the new house is based on the cost to build a new house, okay? And I was just talking to a contractor there today, and he talked to someone was building a place on Lake Agnew, and he said, when he finally got the house built, all of a sudden he's paying $1,000 a month in municipal taxes. Now that's excessive, but there are people in this community who are paying $8,000 or $10,000 a month, where the average is $2,400. Not per month, per year. Per year, yeah.
I'm not coming here, you're taxing for that.
Excuse me, per year. So $1,000 a month or $8,000 or $10,000 because they built a new house. And somebody living in a 20-year-old house that may be a little less square footage, not quite as fancy, is probably maybe paying half or a third of what they are, and their house is a lot different, okay? So I don't know how we get around that, because that's how impact works, but the housing costs in Espanola to buy a house is quite low relative to what it costs for a new house. And it's discouraging development, okay? And, you know, someone might like to build in the community, but if they find it's gonna cost them an extra $3,000 a year in taxes, because they built a house in town, it turns that off often.
I think what you have to look at is, if I want a nice new home, it's gonna cost me more money, right? It may be the same square footage as an old home. I live in an old home, and I'm continually spending money. So maybe I bought it cheaper, but I probably put that much into it over time in terms of renovations and whatnot. I know of a guy who was telling me that he lived in Sudbury, and he moved just outside the city limits to the south. And he talked about how much more affordable it was and how much lower the taxes were. And then he had to put in a new septic system. And then he had to put in a new well. And on and on. And he said in the end, he might as well stay in Sudbury. So, I mean, you have to weigh them. I mean, when you build a new house, you get what you want. It's designed the way you want it. And if you want to get what you want, sometimes you have to pay for it.
Yeah, I'm just saying is, but relative to,
Yeah.
I think other communities, the difference between an existing house and a new house is a lot greater. And in a lot of communities, that difference isn't so great, so that the person who builds a new house is paying so much more than the person who's been paying on a house that's always been there.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking-
I'm no expert on this, so if
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say, I don't think it's that different than any other communities, really. Like, the cost of building is high.
Yeah.
And older homes, they do sell for less. So, again, it's just, you know, like Mike was saying, but just to touch on this earlier point too, when you were talking about new businesses coming to town or whatever town we select, I think we have a lot of selling features, including our natural gas. And I think one of the things that's sort of the next step in our process is really just promoting what we have more, because I don't think that that's very well known out there. And even, you know, I think, Bill, we had talked about this at one point in time, but just sort of doing an analysis of like what it would cost for you to live in town as opposed to being in an unorganized area, maybe, because their tax rates are much lower, but you're going to pay a lot more in house insurance and everything else. So I think if you look at those comparisons, I think we're very reasonable. We just don't do a good job at communicating or promoting ourselves enough for everything that we have.
I think that's fundamental. We haven't really got a good plan for promotion, okay? Yeah, it's how we want to sell a community. We want to sell a community in several areas as a senior, as maybe a place to retire. Come to a community where housing relatively inexpensive. You've got lots of facilities and stuff there. We're close to a major metropolitan area, and we've got all these recreational opportunities. For youth or for a young couple, we've got a community that you can buy a house and you don't have to spend $500,000 to get a house. You're not too far from Sudbury for a community. So we can sell ourselves as a dormer community, as a place to retire, a place for fabricators to come in and maybe have a great situation, and you're not too far from Sudbury where maybe you'll have a fair bit of business to go with that. So there's definitely something we need to do there.
I think, yeah, promoting the area. So if you look at a place like Elliott Lake waited until it was too late, and the mines closed down, and they said, what are we going to do? We're losing our businesses, you know, the malls are half empty. And then they said, well, we're going to rebrand ourselves. We're going to become a seniors community. And then they started advertising to attract seniors, which was great, but you also need young people in your community. And so I don't think you ever want to let yourself get to that point. I think you want to keep yourself balanced. At this point in time, what happens is the people that move away when they're younger for better jobs or other opportunities, they want to come back home to retire. So the older people are coming back, and it's one or two people to a home. They've lived somewhere else. If they've lived in Toronto, they can come back here and afford a nicer home in town. And now your population is stable but aging. So again, you need to find a way to attract. There's some great jobs at the mill and what I noticed from the announcement that day, a lot of young people there. And that's great. When you look at a lot of retail businesses, it tends to be more older or students. So you need that good mix. You need to provide the opportunities. I talked to some young people in some of the sessions and said, oh, you were born here, why are you still here? Well, my family's here and I like it here and it's a great place to live. And, so you need to provide it all. I think you're doing a great job. Honestly, I've enjoyed this experience. I really enjoyed talking to the groups. There was a lot of good input. I think there's always things that we can do better. And hopefully when we get down to the actual specifics of what we want to accomplish, we'll get some good ideas. When people thank you for pointing out all the good things in the town that they took for granted, and they actually said that, we take it for granted. You have a lot, for a community this size, you have a lot going for you.
I just wanted to point out, because I fall into this category in the fact that I married and moved away for 40 years. my husband passed and I moved back. And I thought about it for a good year before I decided where to go. My husband was deathly ill, cancer. We lived in Suluka, which our closest hospital was Thunder Bay, which was 4 hours one way. And for a solid 2 years, I just beat a path back and forth. So being by myself, I wanted proximity to hospitals because there was no way that I could do the drive by myself. I wanted a safe, happy community, and that's what Estimable is. It's wonderful. I can walk my dog at 11 o'clock at night, and there's other people. I couldn't do that where I moved from. I couldn't go out after dark. I couldn't walk the streets. It wasn't safe at all. I couldn't do it. There are so many wonderful, positive things, like you say, but we need to focus on just a few areas. That if you want seniors to move here, I bought a home. I wanted to be close to the golf course. I'm 2 blocks from the golf course. I love it. I have seniors on my street. I have young families on my street. Wonderful. So, like I say, there's so much. It's an amazing community. Just gotta critique a few little areas. And housing is one of them. I looked on the website for 6-8 months before I relocated here. I had 3 houses to choose from. That was it. So housing is a major, major area of concern for me and for people in my age group. But yeah, it's a wonderful place. Island's right there, Sudbury's right there, Toronto's right there. You can go anywhere. It's amazing.
The proximity kept coming out.
Yeah.
You're on the back door of a lot of Crown land. So if you're into skiing, hiking, snowmobiling, quadding, it's all right here. There's tons of lakes, there's fishing opportunities, there's hunting opportunities. They're on your doorstep. So you got a lot going for you. And I think you need to recognize that, be proud of that. And again, makes my job a little more difficult because you've already got a lot of good things going on. It's harder to make a difference. But I'm going to try and guide you to make a difference so that we can enhance what you do have, and hopefully you'll be excited about what we finally come up with. Just before I go to Eric, do you have any comments that?
Well, there may be other questions, but I guess I was going to ask, is with Domtar doing a major investment, we had heard from realtors that there was a growth in housing prices and demand, and ultimately that's what drives developers is the demand. So I mean it's a big investment that already started, I think, within years coming in town, and maybe you've seen it. So I'm just curious if you're seeing that, maybe that's an opportunity going forward. How do you leverage that major investments, build a partnership with Domtar on one of the community projects potentially? Or what do you think about that?
Well, houses have been selling very well in the community. I will say that.
I don't think it's any quicker than it used to be. I think everything's staying about the same. I mean,
There's no place to stay.
maybe I'm a pessimist.
When you move in, it's hard to
There's
find
no
a
place to
place.
live, but there's also no place to book to stay here. We have contractors, the Domtar's indicating that they need a year or 3 years. So right now, people are struggling to find places to stay when they come for the weekend or weddings or whatever. So that's going to continue for a couple of years.
It's reminiscent, someone in the room will remember that EDA did major investments in the early 90s. In that period, we got Canadian Tire, Independent, Tim Hortons, McDonald's. They all came pouring in the 90s when the mill was investing and the motels were full, the restaurants were busy. There's a linkage there.
Okay, does anybody else have any more questions? We'll call the meeting to an end again. I have a
Oh,
motion here.
that's where we were.
Yeah, I need a mover and a seconder and call the meeting to an end. Okay, moved by Heather, seconded by Ray, be it resolved that the special meeting of council is hereby adjourned. All those in favor? Approved.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.